All right, welcome back to Savannah Techie. My name is Rafael Ndwiga and I am your host. Now, if you're new to the channel, kindly subscribe, hit the notification bell button, and share it with your peers. In today's video, and in this particular series that this video belongs to, we will be looking at Unix shell. So over the course of the few videos in this series, we'll be having a look at the Linux, working the Linux with the Linux command. And the Linux command is essential for those who are software engineers and DevOps. Now, yeah, and DevOps. Now let's get started. Now in the videos, like I said, that in this video series, we'll be looking at Linux command line and shell scripting. Generally, Linux is fun to operate, but it's not easy. While Windows and Mac heavily rely on graphical interface, Linux is heavy on the command line. A Linux command line is also known as Linux shell, and it's similar to DOS or command prompt in Windows. All Linux distributions have a shell program named bash that accepts keyboard commands and passes them to the operating system for execution. When you're using a graphical user interface, in my case, I run a Kubuntu 20.4. To access the Linux shell, I have to use another program called a program called the terminal emulator. So if you're wondering what a terminal emulator is, here it is. So this is a terminal. And then, yeah, so a terminal has various parts. Okay, so a terminal has various parts. It has what I've named. It has the first part whereby you have the current user that is accessing the shell the shell prompt. That is the first part, labeled A. We have the user, that is right now it's Ndwiga, and then at deprogrammer, the deprogrammer, from the art that gives you the computer's or the server's host name, and then this part labeled B, just a moment. So the part labeled B shows you the current working path. I think I made it worse. Let me just turn it to default. There we go. Yeah. So B shows you the current path you are in, and then the $sign. The $sign indicates now the start of where now you can be able to start typing the various commands. We will delve more into that, but basically that particular $sign and the blinking button, the blinking line, is known as a shell prompt. Okay, so this is the shell prompt. Now, in the appearance of the shell prompt, it basically tells you that the Linux shell is ready to take in user input, and the appearance the appearance of that particular shell prompt may differ depending on the distribution that you're using. For instance, you may see a hash sign, or a $sign. Now, When you see a dollar sign, it basically means that the terminal session will offer you it will offer you a super user privileges. Super user privileges means that you can be able to invoke commands that change the way the Linux operating system operates. And Linux operates in the basis of permissions. So what can one user do in the system? All of them are governed by the kind of permissions or privileges they have. So either you're logged in as a root user, or you have an unlimited terminal privileges, you're able to see the shell. You're able to see that particular shell prompt. Now, to get started, okay. To get started, let's have a look at our objective for this session. So the things we'll cover, we look at the key difference between Unix shell and what shell scripting is. Then we'll have a look at the basic navigation in Unix system. Then we'll look at file and directory management, and then one thing that we also look in the video series is bash scripting. So what exactly is Unix shell and shell scripting? So Unix shell, the official document definition is that a Unix shell in computing, a shell is a computer program interpreter which exposes an operating system services to a human user or other programs. In general, operating system either use a command line interface or a graphical user interface. Now, depending on the computer's role and a particular operation. So, for example, for the PC that you are using, it mainly has the graphical user interface because it's basically that interface is built for you to be able to easily interact with the files, to play, to the text editors, and so on. But the moment you access the server, and the server can be now on the sandbox or on WebTerm, or you have deployed a VPS, a virtual machine on GCP, AWS, or DigitalOcean, then the default graphics that you'll be interacting there is the command line interface. So in Unix, it's both an interactive command. In Unix, shell is both an interactive command and a scripting language that is used by the OS to control the execution of the system using shell scripts. So the same way that you're able to click on a file using your mouse and it opens. Now, and you can be able to edit and then click another button and save. Now in Unix, using the command line interface, you can be able to invoke those particular commands now directly on the files or any other or on the files or directories that you are currently working on. Now, bash or shell scripting. A shell script is basically a computer program designed to run by the Unix shell. Okay, so a shell script is a program designed to be run by the Unix shell. Like, in short, it's a text file that contains a sequence of commands for Unix-based operating systems. So normally you can be able to, once you have access to the Unix shell, you can be able to do what you call inline commands. Inline commands are, for example, ls to list files, mkdir to create directory, and so on. But now, when you want to combine a bunch of those commands, okay, to automate or do a certain task, then the way to be able to achieve them, okay, the way to be able to achieve them is through through shell scripting. So you write a text file that contains a sequence of these commands, and then you have and then you can be able to execute them. So there are various dialects of shell scripts which are considered shell scripting languages. Typical operations that are performed by shell scripts include file manipulation, program execution. So you can use a shell, you can write a script that executes another script, okay? And then you have printing text and so on. So there are many things you can able to do. You can even use a shell script to log into another server. You can use it to, yeah, as in the list is the list of what is possible using a shell scripting is virtually endless. So we will be using the Bash dialect for the rest of the particular tutorial when it comes to shell scripting. So let's start with the navigation. So why are you learning Linux, working with the Linux command line? It's because being a ninja with navigating the Linux command line is the first step to mastering Linux administration and shell scripting. So if you really want to be conversant and really work on servers, being able to automate stuff using Vagrant, using Puppet, using Kubernetes, using any other particular services on that on Linux platform, then you need to be able to navigate the command line like a pro, like a ninja. In those particular old days whereby you have the ninja, they're really, the ninjas are really good with their swords. So they had attained mastery of using their swords or any other item that was at their disposal. So for you, one of the items is being really good and conversant with the Linux command line. Now, to get started, you can able to launch your Unix terminal. So since I already I run an Ubuntu-based distro, we launch my console. There it is. So this is my particular my terminal. So basically, a terminal is an emulation that allows you to connect. Okay, it allows you to connect to the Linux shell. So a terminal is an emulator that allows you to connect to the Unix shell and where you'll be able to execute commands. Now, in the case whereby you are watching this tutorial or crash course from using a Windows environment, you can follow along through the use of a cloud-based Linux environment. So if you have a sandbox, then you can be able to follow along through practicing on that particular sandbox environment. And then the other way you can follow through is through the use of Vagrant. So in one of the video series that we are currently one of the video series that we have is taking you through on Vagrant. So kindly have a look at that one. Then you can install Vagrant on your local machine and you can execute all these commands, practice navigating the Linux command line, creating shell scripts using your Vagrant environment. So Vagrant will basically bring that particular cloud to you. So you really don't need to have installed Linux on your machine for you to be able to benefit from using this tutorial. Now, there are popular commands that and concepts that once you understand, we will be able to get you from being from a beginner to a ninja. So we can able to look at some of the commands that we'll be looking at is awk, and that is for pattern scanning, processing. We have baseline, we have BG for resuming suspended jobs without bringing them to the foreground. There's a bunch of commands that that are available that once you master them, it will become easy for you to not only navigate the command line, but also when it comes to building your shell scripts. Okay, building your shell scripts. So I will have a link to this slide that I'm using on the description of this particular video. So you can be able to find that. You can be able to find it there. So there's a number of them. So you can see I have 2 or 5, and these are just but a few of them. Okay, so now to get started, sorry, let me just hide that one. So we have like 1 or 5, 2 to 5, 3 to 5, 4 or 5, okay, and 5 or 5. So there are a bunch of commands that you and concept that once you understand them, they should be good, and that you should really jumpstart your career as a software engineer and a DevOps engineer when it comes to interacting with the Linux environment. Now, when talking about navigation, we get started with the console. Okay, and I'll go through a couple of commands that you should be that you should be aware of and how they function. So now, first, if you want to tell the date today, you can use the command curl. Okay, so curl will be able to display the date today based on your environment, based on your what you call locales. So my local, you can see it's not necessarily really English, but when I was doing some configuration, I changed my locale to a different one. But basically, this is a basic calendar. So cal basically prints out the calendar of the day. So this is January. Sorry, this is May 2022, and then we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then what is highlighted is the current date. So, but if you just want to get the date, you can just issue the command date. So the command date basically prints out to you the current date. So whether the current date and the current date and time. Now, the other thing that is important when working with the Linux is knowing how much space you have on your system. So if you want to know how much space you have on your system, then the command that you'll be able to use there is df. So df will tell you how much space you have on your system, okay, or exact or basically what is currently the various drives or devices you have. So like in my case here, you can see it tells you the file system, and I have a bunch of them. So we have dev, a couple of devs. We have the 1K block. It can tell me how much space has been used in that particular block, and then how much is available, and then tells me the percentage use, and where that particular file system is mounted on. So like for example, you can see here this particular file system, the dev SDA3 is mounted on MT. So if you don't understand what mounting is, we'll have one of particular video that will be able to cover on that, or you can just do a quick search on YouTube, and you can be able to find about what is a file system being mounted. Now, if you want to see the amount of free memory that you currently have, okay, by free memory, it means the main memory, which is RAM, and also swap. So swap is it's more like a temporal memory allocation allocated. It's more of like it's like another version of RAM, but now on your disk. So I have 16 GB of RAM. Can tell that I've used almost 10, and so on and so forth. Now, for navigation, that is basically what we've looked at. Is we have looked at being able to tell the date, being able to see the disk usage, being able to tell how much free RAM you have and what how much of your swap space have been used. Now, in terms of navigation, the file navigation, let me clear. So when you want to clear your prompt just to get rid of this additional content listed, then you can use the command clear. So clear will be able to get rid of all that. So how do I know where I am on once you launch your terminal, or you're in a shell prompt in a server? To do that, use the command pwd, present working directory. That's what basically it means. So you can see my present working directory is home, Ndwiga, learning, and shell. That's my current working directory. Then if I want to tell or display the content of the directories that are currently on my present working directory, okay, present working directory, if I do ls, we can see there are no files, there are no files or directories on this particular present working directory. But if I use the command cd, okay, and then full stop, two full stops, and I hit enter, okay, it will take me a directory above. It will take me to the parent directory. So I'm moving upwards. And then when I issue the command ls, okay, when I issue the command ls, you can see it lists to me the files that are currently in this directory. Okay, now I can also use the command ls. Okay, I can be able to use the command ls and then -1 to display the files in a vertical space, so in a lengthier version. So this is, you can see this is an horizontal version. If at all I want them in a lengthier version, I can use ls-1. Okay, and then if I want to tell the kind of information, to display the information on the type of files, then I can use the command ls dash hyphen capital F, okay, and you can see the kind of file that I do have here. You can see this one, the forward, right now it has added a forward slash. So for forward slash, it basically means that what you have is a file. Sorry, what you have, this one, this particular folder only contains directories. But now if I go further, say cd back, and then I do now, so I've issued the command cd full stop to go now to the parent directory. So parent directory, it has landed me to my home directory of my user in this particular system. Now I can retype this command ls space hyphen capital F to execute this one, to be able to tell the kind of files that I have. Now, rather than typing that, I can, on my keyboard, I can use the arrow, the arrow key, the one that is pointing up, the up arrow key, and navigate to the previous directory, or to traverse or navigate through the history of the command that I've entered on the shell prompt. So I can traverse. You can see the previous command was cd space full stop, and then the next one on that order was ls-f. Okay, so if I hit enter, you can see that we have directories. Okay, so you can be able to see directory indicated with a forward slash, and then you can be able to see I have text files themselves. So let me go back to the learning. So cd learning, okay, then ls, and then I go back to shell, because that's basically what we are looking at. and then I'll do clear to clear that particular content. So we were talking about being able to traverse the history of the command prompt, and what you have used is the navigate the arrow key, the up arrow key to go upwards, and the lower arrow key to go downwards. But if at all you are interested, if you're interested in seeing what commands that have been entered in on your Unix system, then what the command that for that, there's a specific command to give that information. The command is history. So in hit history, it will give you a bunch of commands. So you can see like I have a bunch of commands that have executed. This almost 1,000, yeah, quite a lot of it. So now, when you execute the command history, it gives you all the historical commands you have run. Now, the good thing about that command, it tells you, it gives you a line. Okay, it gives you a line and tells you that on that this particular line, you can move to use it to re-execute the previous command. So for example, if I want to execute cd, okay, this one, to going back to the parent directory of learning, here I want to go back to learning, then I can use this one. I can use this line 1471. So I can say, I can use the exclamation mark, okay, and then 1471, then hit enter. You can see it has executed this command, and we are moved from the shared directory to its parent of learning. Then I can also execute the subsequent command, that is 1472. So execute full 1472, okay, and it will tell you, when you do that one, it will list for you the command that it has executed, and then the output of that particular command. So this particular short form is good for cases whereby you want to repeat a very long command that you had typed on the command prompt. Now we have used the ls command, okay, basically to display the content of the files, to display the content of the current working directory. So it's not just limited to that. Okay, you can also list the content of another directory by using the ls command, okay, and then the path of that directory. In my case, I just want to list the content of let's say the home directory. Okay, so if I do ls then home and I hit, you can see it only has R Ndwiga. Higher. Then I can also say ls, I want to see the content that is in this particular directory. So ls and then home and then R Ndwiga. You can see a bunch of files in the directory that are currently there. So now ls, so you can use ls to list the content of the current directory, or you can use ls to list the content of another directory. Okay, then if once you're logged in on the same shell prompt, I can list the content of my home directory. So there's something called home directory. So I can also do ls and then I put a caret and to list for me the content of my home directory. So there's a current directory and there's a home directory. So, and then if you wanted to navigate to my home directory, I can use the command cd and then that particular caret, and then I hit enter. It takes me to my home directory. Then I can navigate to a specific directory, subdirectory, as long as I know this particular path. For example, if I want to go to the shell directory that we were before, can use cd, then learning, okay, then shell, okay, and execute that one. You can see I'm in the shell directory. Okay, now we have seen that when you use the ls command, okay, when you use the ls command and you add an argument, okay, like the argument that we used before, we have used the command, we have used the argument -1, and they've used the argument -f with this command. Now for commands can be able to, you can be able to change the behavior of a command based on the arguments. So plainly, when you do ls learning, we do ls yeah, just a moment. You do ls home, okay, then Ndwiga to basically do the listing, okay. But if now I issue an argument, so ls-1, it will modify the behavior. You can see previously when we did just ls, the content was displayed in columns forms, so more in a horizontal, in a nice horizontal fashion. But now when we issued -1, then it changed the way the way that particular content was displayed. So you have basic command, and then a command can have arguments. Now, how do you tell that a command, what particular kind of argument a command has? So to be able to do that, then there's a command we're able to use. You use the command man, then space, then the command that you want to know the arguments that it's able to take. So you do that and hit enter. Then you learn to the man file. So it tells you that ls, this one lists directory content, okay, until that the ls information about lists information about the files, the current directory by default. So by default, it lists the content of the current directory, and then it has the mandatory arguments. So there's also arguments that you're able to use. So there's an argument like what we've used. There's an A, there's capital A, and each of the arguments means something. So A means do not ignore directory, starting with a full stop, and A basically means there's order, there's B, escape. So there's a number, and then what basically we have used -f to append an indicator to show whether it's a directory or it's basically a file. And then another one that we have used is one. Let's see one where it is. So you can see the list of arguments that, yes, one. So one means when you issue the -1, it lists the files, one file per line. Okay, so it lists one file per line. So it changes how the files are, how the content is displayed. So this is how to look more into the kind of options or arguments a command is able to display. To get outside, to quit the man page or the manual page, just press Q on your home page. So replace Q on the keyboard. All right. Now we've already seen how we can go to list the files, to check the current directory we are in, and as we begin now to explore the system, one of the most useful things you should be able to learn is what is in the files themselves. Okay, to do this, we use the file command to help us work with the file type. So Linux doesn't require file names to specify the file content. So for example, where you will expect a .jpeg to contain an image, Linux doesn't require this. So when the Linux file command is invoked, it prints out the description of the description of the content. So let's do let me navigate cd to my home directory. That's why I have quite a number of files. Okay, I'll do ls. Okay, now I want to print out the description of the content on this file. Okay, so I'll just do this, issue the command file, and then working with Emacs editor, then hit enter. So you can see it tells you the kind of it prints out the description of the file content. You can see ASCII text with very long lines. Okay, now let me see the kind of content this file has. So I'll use the command file and the ksnip. Okay, and it tells me that ksnip, so it starts with the file name. You can see here, this is the file name, and it tells me that it contains what? PNG image data, and then it gives me the size of this particular file. So it tells me that this file is 182 by 863 pixels, and then it tells me that this particular image, it has 8-bit color RGB and is non-interlaced. Okay, so you can see for a text file, it tells that it's an ASCII text. If it's an image, it tells you it's a PNG image, the kind of data, and even gives you additional information such as the size and the bit color. Now, if I say look at this other one, the WineHQ, and I do file winehq.key, it tells me that it's a PGP public key block. Okay, so the file command basically, it prints out the description of the file content. Okay, description of the file content. Now, supposing you are not just interested with knowing the description of the file content, but you really want to know what is that particular content that is being described. To do that, you can use the command less. So now I'll issue the command. Let me just clear this, and then I do ls, and then for this one, then I can go to use the command. Let me just copy this cp. I want to copy working with editor, the directory learning, and then directory shell. Yeah, the file is not complete, so yes, so now copy that one, and then also copy cp ksnip to the same directory learning, then shell. Okay, so I've copied an image, I've copied a text file, then let me copy this pgp key to the same directory, so learning and then shell. Then I'll do cd to learning shell. I'll clear and do ls. Come out to see the content that are the file that I've copied there. Now, to tell we have said that use the file the file command and then the file name to be able to get a description of the file content. Now, if you are interested in seeing the content of the file itself, not just the description, use the command less, then the file name. Okay, and yeah, and then now with this particular content, you can be able to navigate. So the less command allows you to navigate through this particular content that you have opened using the less command.